gather for Christmas, or it's just too soon to tell?
It's just too soon to tell. We've just got to concentrating on continuing to get those numbers down and not try to jump ahead by weeks or months and say what we're going to do at a particular time.
Dr. Fauci putting an early damper on the holiday season, suggesting Americans might have to spend Christmas alone again. Critics fired back. A little more love right now from our own Tammy Bruce. Remember, she was just with me a few moments ago. Here's what she tweeted. Americans, guess what? No one cares what this troll thinks. We'll do what we know is best for ourselves and our families. And the Free Beacon's Chuck Ross with, it's bad enough that Fauci says these ridiculous things, but it's worse that journos keep framing questions to him as if he has any say over whether we get together for Christmas. Fauci's comments come despite this from the New York Times, quote unquote, COVID in retreat. New cases in the U.S. have fallen by more than a third in the past month, down 35% since September 1st. And last year, Dr. Fauci predicted the holidays would be back to normal by now. Jason Rantz, Seattle radio talk show host, your take.
It's ludicrous. It's not too soon to know. There's nothing we know right now that says you can't see friends or family for Christmas or Hanukkah or Thanksgiving for Halloween. We had another weekend filled with stadiums, filled with people.
Talladega, hello.
Exactly. And what were we told before all of this? We were told that these would become super spreader events, that the bodies would pile up as a result of people tailgating. And yet we never got any of the follow-up from any of the politicians who made these claims, nor from any media member who was out there fear-mongering about what this would be. We understand that the majority of this country right now is vaccinated with at least one shot. We know that in certain states, well over half are vaccinated. Here in Washington, we're upwards of 75% or so. To tell me that it's not safe to visit your family for Christmas, to say that now in October, indicates this isn't really about public health at this point. Now we're talking about taking total control. And that's the scary part here. You don't get to decide whether or not I'm going to see my family or friends for any holiday.
If I could just have last Christmas back, I would have seen my dad before he passed on Christmas morning. I'm not taking anybody's word for it. We can all do our parts to keep ourselves safe. Dr. Fauci weighed in on California's vaccine mandate for children, school kids, saying he thinks it's the right call by Gavin Newsom. Watch.
I agree with what Governor Newsom did in California. People need to realize that having a vaccine requirement for schools is not a new, novel thing that is very peculiar or specific to COVID-19. We've been doing this for decades. So when we see pushback on that, it's as if this never happened before. It's actually ongoing with other vaccines. So let's do it with a virus that's very, very serious.
Following the science, though, is really where we want to be. One California doctor who is a dad of two says the science does not back up the governor's move. Let's watch. Jason, I'll hit you on the float.
The decision that the governor made is one that's really based on his personal beliefs, that's based in politics. It's not based in clinical evidence, right? As a physician, the one thing that I'm taught, the one thing that we should all practice is evidence-based medicine.
Jason.
Yeah, it's not based in science or any of the data. We know that kids are very unlikely to die or even get seriously ill from COVID. It's not to say that it's not serious. It can be for some kids. But let's stop pretending that a vaccine that is brand new and hasn't been fully tested on kids the way that they want us to believe is something simple, flipping a switch and just go ahead and doing it. I'm sorry, parents should get a say in this, and they're being ignored.
I want to move to this. Liberal billionaire George Soros has dumped $500,000 into a campaign to stop Austin, Texas, from refunding its police department. The Austin City Council voted to cut up to $150 million from the police budget last year after the murder of George Floyd. And since then, as we've been covering, crime has gone up exponentially, and the number of officers has gone way down. The department even says it would have to stop responding to non-emergency calls. Mackenzie Kelly, Austin City Council member, told Fox News, "It sickens me that out-of-town billionaires are able to swoop into the Austin area to fight against citizen-led ballot initiatives. The purpose of our city's charter is to allow regular, everyday people to fight for what they believe in when the city council fails them." So big money George Soros sticking his nose in Austin. And what does that mean for the people of Austin?
It means the people of Austin are going to have to wise up and do a lot of their research on their own and make common sense choices rather than allowing big money from any side to influence where they go. Big money, I love Democrats call out big money. It buys elections. We got to stop the 1%ers from taking control.
Yeah, but they take
Dark
his money.
All this stuff. Yeah, but they'll happily take George Soros' money. When you take money from the groups and the people that hold positions that you hold, suddenly everyone shuts up about it. At the end of the day, this remains on the voters. We know, and it's not just Austin, it's all across the country. When you defund the police, when you have less officers, you see an increase in crime. You either live with that or you fight back and do something. And I'm glad that folks in Austin have stood up and said enough is enough. But now they're just going to have one more hurdle to overcome. This is what happens all the time, right? It's not just George Soros. Lots of these groups end up coming in and they use these as a test case and they see how far they can go.
So that's what I want to get to real quickly, and I'm going to let you go after this. But I'm curious to know, why would George Soros get into this? There are other cities, including your own. Look, you've got Portland, Seattle, Chicago, Minneapolis. There's so many other cities across the nation that are learning just the pinch of this whole defund, not just in talking about it, but in actually doing it. So why does he get involved in Austin, Texas?
Because in Austin, Texas, you have the Texas spirit. You've got people who are pushing back against this nonsense and not just giving in. You contrast that with Seattle or Portland, where you don't need to put big money into our cities because we already have a populace that believes this nonsense. That's what this is about.
Jason Rantz, thank you. Always good to have you in focus.
Thank you, Harris.
Well, as